Welcome to the Ethnography Salon for 2026. Here we are. January 7th, I guess it is. I'm a little confused because I'm in Yao, Osaka, Japan. And yeah, indeed. I welcome all of you here. We're going to have a terrific presentation by our recently minted Dr. Darius here. It should be fantastic. Really quite an important topic that he's brought to the table here. And we will usually do a check-in. Mabel, good to see you. And we do a check-in, see how everybody's doing in the new year, what's top of mind, maybe. And we'll go around. Maybe Darius, we'll start with you. What's top of mind? And we'll go around and then we'll have Darius's presentation and then we'll have a discussion. So, welcome everyone and Happy New Year. Absolutely.
Yeah, Happy New Year, all the way from DFW. Um, it is a new year and it is a new season for new things. And the weather out here is, they have a saying about Texas weather, if you don't like it, wait a minute. So we are in the minutes, in the waiting, and you know, yeah, that's for the weather.
That's great. So DFW, the Dallas Fort Worth. Are you right near the airport? Do you live near the airport?
No, that DFW airport is probably about 45 minutes away from me. I'm in the Dallas area because that's about northwest. But yeah, I'm actually in the southwest part of Dallas. So mhm.
Terrific, terrific. And did you have good holiday season? How was your holiday season with your family?
Oh, it was nice. It was nice. Got an opportunity to celebrate the scholarship. So I had family that flew in from Arizona and drove in from Houston and came in from all the reaches of the Metroplex. After taking that trip to Cincinnati, came back here and everybody who wasn't able to go to the graduation ceremony in Cincinnati in November, we partied out this way. So yeah, it was a good thing.
Well, that's fantastic. It was so good to see you and others in Cincinnati. And my, your topic has got more interest, I think, day by day, certainly for me. And I see Grace and Errol have joined us too. Dia, good to see you too. Jennifer, how are things in Central America?
Hi, good morning. Happy New Year. Things are good and peaceful and calm in Central America and Costa Rica. We're in Guanacaste right now. And yeah, so really appreciating that, sense of stability with all that's going on in the world. And then, of course, being actively engaged in that and really glad to be back again this term and in the fielding community. So thank you, David.
Yeah, terrific. Thanks so much, Jennifer. I had my first class this morning of the new term, Social and Ecological Justice. I had 9 students and 3 teaching fellows, and oh my goodness, they were just amazing. I just marvel at how much I learned from my students. Many of you good folks here, in fact. Dr. Akua, how are things for you today?
Things are great. Still, waking up. I'm in California, East Bay area. So it's 7 o'clock out here. Um, yeah, so
Early.
doing very early. I didn't hear the exact prompts, but
Uh, Top of mind for you? How's the holiday? That sort of thing.
yeah, really good. My holidays were great and relaxing. We did a lot of stuff in the November holiday, and so for this one that just passed, I opted to just relax. So it was just me and my daughter, very quiet, very serene, very restful, which is on brand. Um, yeah, and New Year, excited for all of the opportunities, really excited to hear what Dr. Darius is going to be sharing with us today. Yeah, whole lot of great stuff.
Fantastic. Thank you, Dr. Kua. So good to have you with us. And down the line, maybe you can also present if you're interested. We can talk about that. And
Yes.
Dr. Campbell, how are things? Are you in Connecticut now? Where are you right now? Virginia? Where are you?
I'm in California. Um,
Oh,
I
okay.
live in Southern
San Diego.
California now.
Oh, that's
Yeah,
right. San Diego. That's right. Yeah.
yep, exactly. And it's kind of early here, but I've already been up for a while and underway, ready for my second cup of coffee. And top of mind. Well, I'll just I'll just get the next to the top of mind. I'm working on helping get the International Social Capital Association's first conference stood up. It's going to be the end of March in Dubai. So we're
Wow.
really busy with dotting all the I's and crossing all the T's for that. I know of at least a couple fielding um, colleagues who will be presenting there, which is great. And I'm also starting around the turn of the year. I began a new research project, which is going to be pretty big, pretty imposing from where I'm looking right now, but looking forward to it. Whole different field, mental health care, and hoping to maybe throw that out in the world and get published somewhere. So got a lot going on, but it's great to be
Fantastic.
here and see everybody.
Yeah, well, great to have you here. Terrific. Thanks so much. And Megan, how are things for you in New York City? I take it, but maybe I'm wrong.
No, you're correct. I am in New York City. I was up in the Berkshires, so Massachusetts, for the holidays, and it was cold up there, really freezing.
Oh,
I
oh,
think it was like, I don't know, like 18 degrees. Like basically, we had to cancel all our plans because it was too cold to be outside.
oh, my goodness. Okay.
So, it was nice holidays, but we were just kind of like indoors and relaxing. So it was nice. It was kind of like a forced quiet. So it was good.
Ah, ah. That's good too. I got together with some old high school friends on Cape Cod in October, just as a nor'easter was hitting Cape Cod. So we
Oh,
were
wow.
forced inside. We had a lot of board games and puzzles, but we had a lot of talking with each other, so that was good.
Well, that's great.
Yeah, we love the Cape. So, yeah, and Dr. Robinson, how are you? It's a great background. I take it that's Tennessee, but I'm not sure.
That is here. This is one of my favorite hikes. See the Tennessee River behind. Everything is fine here. Kids are back at school. One daughter is about to audition for All East Band, and so that is really front and central of mind. Nothing to do with work. All I have is her French horn tunes playing through my head night and day.
Oh, that must
Um,
be lovely. Yeah, French horn.
well,
So well, okay.
but it's great to be with you. And I must apologize. I have an 11 o'clock meeting. So when I disappear, please do not take that personally. That's just a sad happenstance of scheduling.
It happens with us, doesn't it? Yeah, absolutely. Thank you so much. And Mabel, how are you? Where are you today?
Yes, hello everyone. Normally I'm in Liberia, but I've moved closer. I'm in Florida now. Yay.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. And Happy New Year to everyone. I started the new year with a conference, an autoethnographic conference that happened here in Florida. So I'm here for a
Oh,
few more days.
fantastic.
Yeah.
I would love to hear more about that. If you can put some information in the chat and Alice about your social capital conference as well. This is an opportunity, salons like this, to exchange information. So,
Mhm.
yeah, terrific. Well,
Yeah.
great.
Sure.
So good to see you, Mabel.
Yes,
And
thank you.
Danielle, you're a student with us, you said to me earlier. Is
I
that right?
am, yes. I'm in the post-bac program and I'm in my last
Yes.
term.
Yeah,
Mhm.
terrific. And where are you? And what's
I'm in
top of mind for you?
I'm in Southwest Montana, and top of mind for me is just getting started with the term, kind of getting my feet under me, bearings, getting over a cold currently. So just getting started with everything and, seeing where it goes from here.
Fantastic. Southwest Montana means not Bozeman, I don't suppose, but
Just south of Bozeman. I'm in Big Sky.
you're in
So
Big
right
Sky,
there.
sure. I
Hmm.
know it. I know it well. I've spent a lot of time there. Got dear friends who have a ranch just north of the airport in Belgrade. So yeah,
Yeah, it's a
yeah.
beautiful area.
Oh boy, it sure is. Great. Well, thank you so much. Welcome.
Thank you.
Charmaine, good to see you. Welcome. And how are you today? What's top of mind for you? Where are you today?
I am dialing in from Cleveland, Ohio. Just happy to be here and in community and ready to listen and learn together.
Fantastic. Well, it's great to have you with us. Thank you for joining. And Dr. Dia, recently minted Dr. Dia. How are you today, Dia?
Hello. It is
Hey,
after
I'm
10 p.m.
working.
in Thailand.
I think I
Oh,
need
you're in
to.
Thai.
I've
Okay.
been having a hard time
I'm
getting
in,
phone.
You
Dude.
did that? You just connected?
um, so I'm in Thailand. It's where I was when I did my defense last month, so I'm still here. Um, Top of mind is while waiting for the whole proofreading to happen on that end. Just developing opportunities to, I guess, get my work out there. So you will definitely be hearing from me, email with regards to sharing a completely different take on how we look at the architecture beneath oppressive systems,
Hmm.
not just the symptom of the systems itself.
Yeah, good point. Good point. Yeah, not just the surface. Look down below this the structure underneath. And on
Right.
publishing, we ought to do a session on that sometime, just to have people talk about their own experiences with dissemination. We can think about that. So, yeah, terrific. Good to have you with us, Dia. I was wondering if you're in Hawaii or so Thailand. Where are you in
Uh,
Thailand?
Thailand.
Where
I'm
where
in
in Thailand?
Pattaya right now.
Okay,
Pattaya.
sure, sure. I first visited there in 1972. I was in Pattaya a long time ago, before you were born. So,
Yeah.
yeah, terrific. There we are. Deneen, so good to see you. How are you?
I'm doing well this morning, doing fantastic.
That's great. And where are you right now? I know you go back and forth,
I'm in Louisville, Kentucky,
You're in
and
Louisville today. Okay.
and where I am, my concept paper was approved yesterday, so I'm
Excellent.
full steam ahead and starting to write the proposal today. Is my
Go for
start.
it. Go for it. Wow. That's terrific to hear you're in that space now. That's an important one. Yeah, great. Great to have you with us. And Yemi, how about you? How are you today? In Houston, I take it today.
Yes, good morning from here. I'm in Houston. And Dr. Blake Willis, good morning, and everybody. I'm doing well. The weather is Texas weather. Cold today, hot tomorrow, and that has brought some unique strain of flu to everybody. So we are going through flu,
Oh
everyone
dear.
in Texas right now. I'm just coming out of mine. So
Oh no. I'm sorry to hear
even
that.
in the holidays, I had to deal with that with family. Oh, send you love as well. Thank you so much. Yeah, so top of mind for me at this time is my dissertation, working on that. So I'm energized, I'm motivated. I had to motivate myself. This has to get done, and I
Good.
want to get it done. Thank you.
Good. And you've got an absolutely fascinating topic. Maybe just mention briefly about that for folks.
Yeah, thank you. I'll be happy to talk about that. I'm working on integration of spouses of expatriates into the United States and looking at that in maybe not comparison, but looking at that along the line of their personal growths. So it's been interesting so far. What I've been able to dig up has been.
You're going to find a lot, I'm pretty sure, and things you don't expect also. So, yeah, terrific. Thanks so much, Emmy. Good to have you with us too. Muriel, good to see you. Are you a student with us? I don't
I
know.
am a new student at Fielding. I
Welcome.
attended Grand Canyon and Capella for a while.
Okay.
Had some health issues, had to leave for a year, so I'm back, and I'm back here at Fielding. Holiday-wise, it was very quiet. We had 2-inch ice storm followed by 18 inches of snow,
Oh
and
dear.
then another ice storm on top of it. So we were kind of locked down. That was quiet, but it was okay.
My
Um,
goodness. Where are you with that kind of weather? That sounds like upper New
right at the
York
tip of Lake
State.
Superior.
Oh, the tip of Lake Superior. So, meaning which are you?
I live up by Superior, Wisconsin.
Oh, you're in Superior, Wisconsin. Okay, great.
Near there. Yeah, near there. I'm in a little hick town called Bennett.
I've been to Venice. I
Oh,
actually,
really?
yeah, I was there last year. We did some study about folk schools in the upper
Oh,
Midwest, and the Superior Folk School is one we visited, and we have friends in Ashland. We stayed in Ashland, so yeah, that side we know that. And you do get a lot of snow, and the ice and snow on top of. Oh boy, better stay inside. I just feeling that
I
one.
kind of felt like I was in Michigan, but no, it was just in Wisconsin. So Michigan gets hit a lot worse even, so that's okay. I prefer being
Yes,
here than in the hot weather. So um,
understood.
I like the 4 seasons. So top of mind for me would be getting my feet wet at fielding. My prime interest is cognition and how the mind can get overran by media or environment and under pressure.
Wow.
And I was a nurse anesthetist for 20 plus years, and during that time worked under a lot of high pressure circumstances. And taking a pause in the middle of one of those made a big difference in how I reacted to things and made things better, clearer, more precise. Because when you get into a tornado, you can't do much unless you pause it and um, rethink where you're at. So that's kind of I'm going on a lot of background and been interested in psychology forever and the mind.
Wow, sounds great. Tornadoes, having grown up in Northwest Iowa, very familiar with those and had a few occasions where it was a near-death experience in a tornado. It's not fun. It's, oh my God. Yeah, well,
Well,
great.
living in the medical field lives like that though. They're pushed to pushed to their limits where the demands are so high on their time and on their skills. And, being the ones that are supposed to provide magic when they get somewhere, they're called because no one else can get the job done. If an anesthesia is the one getting called,
Oh dear.
and they
Yeah,
expect you
yeah.
to make miracles, and miracles don't happen. But good things can if you stop and think.
Stop and think sounds good. I like that. So thank you so much. Good to have you with us. And
Yep.
Grace, you're also a student, Grace, if you're here with us. Grace, maybe not. And Earl, how about you? How are things for you today? Where are you today?
Hello, everybody. I am in, let's say I'm closer to Ottawa than to Toronto, Canada.
Okay.
Yeah, and we are being blanketed with snow and ice. We've had our fifth snowstorm since December, so it's cold and getting colder and slippery and all that kind of stuff. So that's our experience right now. Top of mind, oh, Christmas. Let's back up. So I did plan to have a vacation in Jamaica after the hurricane. Uh,
Yes.
Yeah, and that turned out to be not such a good idea because of the extent of the devastation out there.
Yes.
It's oh my goodness, it broke my heart. So I'm one of those gonna try to raise funds to send back to help them out, kind of a thing, because it's really bad.
Yes.
But top of mind for me is like Yemi. I'm working on my dissertation. I am actually trying to how should I say, complete 4 and 5. They're done, but need to be
Oh, very good.
integrated and so on. So I'm near the finish line, very near to the finish.
Very good.
Yes.
Wonderful. Happy to hear it. Very good.
Sure.
Thank you, Earl. Good luck with the writing. And
Thank you. That's a killer.
oh boy, yeah, we know where you are right now. Yeah, in
Um,
fact, yeah, indeed.
okay.
So super. And Danielle, how are you today? Maybe not quite available. Oh,
Hi.
there you are.
Hello. Can you
Yeah.
hear me?
Yes.
Sorry about that. Yeah, I'm in the airport. I'm heading from New Orleans to Miami,
Okay.
and so I won't be able to stay on for long. I'll be boarding soon. Um, Top of mind for me is I am at the ending stages of the proofreading process and glad that all of that is over. And I'm heading to Mexico soon after Miami to focus on publishing.
Good.
My topic of my dissertation is on the reclamation of the quantum self as a pathway for integral transpersonal justice. And I'm looking at justice through a quantum equal-womanism perspective, which is something I had not seen before. And I actually kind of stumbled upon it during my research, that there was a gap in there. And so happy to be on this side of everything and looking forward to publishing.
Terrific. Well, we have to get you and Ava King on a panel to talk together about quantum. So,
Yes.
yeah, indeed. Well, good to have you with us there. And
Thank
area
you. Thank
code 505. Who is area code 505? I've just got a phone number on here.
Dr. David, this is Miranda joining you from Navajo Nation.
Oh, wonderful, Miranda. Okay, good. You're not 505. You're Miranda. Hey, Yahite. So good to have you with us. Terrific. I hope things are going well for you there in Navajo Nation land, and look forward to talking with you soon. And finally here, Peter, how are you? Good to see you. Thank you for joining.
Well, thank you, David. Nice to be with you. Sorry to be late. Looking forward to the topic.
Great. Well, maybe we'll just move right into the topic there then. Darius has got a lot to share with us here, and we're certainly looking forward to hearing from him about narratives and identity and this whole idea about reclaiming. These words with the RE, the reclaim, reparative, restorative. Oh, they're all so important, aren't they? Yeah, it's terrific to hear all of this. And I see Connie Corley has joined us too. Welcome, Connie. We're just getting started here with Dr. Darius.
Great.
So, yeah, good to see you too, Darius. How are you today? And you already said hello, didn't you? Top of mind and everything. So let's move to your talk. Yes, please.
For sure, for sure. Appreciate your warm welcome and everything. Let me go ahead and begin to share if we are good to go. All right. And then what I will also do here is I will share a link to the actual study here in the chat. It is published on ProQuest. So it is searchable, it is live, and yeah, honor that investment. That one there. Okay. All right. Well, peace to everybody. Narratives we must reclaim. the this study was an interesting journey. It spanned a number of years through the pandemic, as well as some other extra hardships that were layered. And I'm sure that most of us, because we all kind of collectively struggled in the world during that time when a lot of this was being written. And so it's interesting that the methodology, the approach, that sort of thing, it all ended up being what it became. So definitely want to say a thank you to those who are present in spirit, though they may not be present here in the room. My committee chair, Four Arrows, and my committee members, Dr. Henderson, Dr. Epstein, Dr. Rothman, and Dr. Scruggs. All of these people do excellent scholarly work, and I feel so fortunate to have been able to connect with them during my matriculation at Fielding. So this dissertation introduces a personal narrative hijacking, to come right to it. This is a framework that explains how dominant cultural narratives, media, and exclusionary practices distort authentic identity formation, especially for marginalized communities, ergo BIPOC. And we're looking at this phenomenon quite particularly in Western cultures or colonized cultures. But this study took place, of course, in the United States. So we'll be coming out of that particular paradigm. The central question: how do individuals, particularly those from marginalized communities, experience and respond to personal narrative hijacking in their pursuit of self-actualization within these systems? And so a little bit about what that, how that came to be. The idea of being able to live and be your full self, to be fully realized, self-actualization, the idea that we often attribute to Abraham Maslow, self-actualization. A healthy man is primarily motivated by his needs to develop and actualize his fullest potentialities and capacities. So he positioned self-actualization as a pinnacle of a hierarchical needs. Allegedly, he positioned, and already I'll start poking at these words. Two things about words: one, the meanings, they do migrate, but then also there's also a hijacking that can take place there, right? Yet few individuals attain or actively pursue it due to persistent prioritization of foundational needs. Scott Barry Kaufman was one of the preeminent scholars of this concept, the newest iteration. When you look into self-actualization, you'll come across his work, and he's doing really important, excellent work in this space as well. So when we say, what does it mean to self-actualize? What does it mean to be able to actualize your fullest potential, to live your fullest life or experience that? I'm sure that might touch some people physically and emotionally in the space now, because as you would even question or turn that question toward yourself, am I living my fullest life? Do I feel, do I believe, do I think that I am able to maximize my potential on a daily basis, on a day-to-day basis? And so when I years ago embarked upon a journey of independence and adulthood, actually about 26 years ago, so a quarter of a century, from the late 1900s, as I like to tell my students, when I went off to undergrad, and then when I graduated from undergrad, and then I started teaching in K-12, started teaching high school, ninth graders. So we're dealing with people at an important threshold or a crossroads in their life. The question of what it is that they're able to experience, what it is that I'm able to experience, even though I taught in a different place than where I'm actually from, the similarity was in the struggle for identity, the struggle for agency, the struggle for, and we're not even talking about like adulthood, we're talking about in young people, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, etc. I ended up teaching in all levels of K-12 in my experience before I ended up in higher education for the latter part of my career. But this idea of saying, hey, something is in the air here. If you think about a fish in a fish bowl, and if you were to put food coloring in that water, that fish would swim around in the colors of the water that it operated, moved, breathed, thought in. It would be changed, whether that fish was consciously aware of it or not. So this idea, even in this image right here, you see sort of an image of the pinnacle, the pyramid, the hierarchy, those sorts of things. It's all interesting. One of the things that we begin to do when we interrogate this idea, though, is that there may be an oversimplification. I actually assert that. There's a rigid linear progression. You take care of this, then you can have that. In order to have this, then you can have that. You can look at the game of Monopoly. You can look at most of the games, the idea of gamification, the idea of a winner and a loser, right? All of these things. These ideas are very much Western. These are very much a part of course, if you live in a colonized society, or if you live in a Western society, it's very much inundated with those kind of ideas, either or thinking. And so empirical studies show that needs are actually dynamic and interconnected. And even when we talk about this, and this is what came out in the research, what Maslow actually posited and a lot of the things that were present with around the genesis of these ideas in the context of the United States, they're far from where they are today. And so a lot of the ideas, a lot of the information, again, we talk about words migrate, we talk about ideas being hijacked, narratives. We could even look to the political landscape of just recently, what's going on in our global climate, where the leader of a country is able to be taken and a narrative is forwarded. And, the question is, so many questions. There's so many questions. So anyway, cultural specificity. Maslow's conceptualization may be influenced by our Western individualistic values, potentially overlooking the cultural nuances prevalent in non-Western contexts, the idea of Eastern or indigenous, right? Critics argue that the model wrongly suggests that one must fulfill lower needs before attaining higher level needs. Again, this idea of the mountain, scaling the mountain, the idea of doing this first before you do that. All of this was not at the genesis of the introduction of the idea of self-actualization and even transcendence. When Maslow intersected at ground zero, and we'll talk a little bit more about that later. Again, I assert that, and if you just do any cursory look on YouTube or in the research, it's gotten out of the academic ivory tower and into our popular culture. It's not as noisy as the other information that's present or that's out there. It's not as ubiquitous or pervasive, but again, that idea of hijacking, what he posited, what he discovered, what he learned is not what we have in popular culture. It's not what we talk about amongst ourselves. It's here, it's in the atmosphere, but the people who have the microphone, the systems that have the microphone, put forth something that never came from Maslow. We'll say it that way. So self-actualization represents realizing one's full potential. The problem is that most people in our societies, in our communities, don't actually attain that. And again, you can ask yourself that question, just starting with yourself. What is your lived experience of self-actualization, of feeling like you are maximizing everything? It directly relates to this idea of personal storytelling, personal narrative construction, agency, ownership, what you are able to say about your own experience. Now, existing research hasn't fully accounted for the structural barriers when we look at the synthesis of it, right? whoever narrates one's life experience, it significantly impacts the fulfillment of that person's potential. What you say has an impact on how you feel on all different levels: physical, mental, emotional, spiritual. Um, Narrative identity theory, right? The idea of storytelling acknowledges the central role of storytelling in shaping the self, the idea of self. We construct coherent life stories that provide meaning, purpose, and continuity across time. This framework, however, does not fully account for the deliberate systemic hijacking of personal narratives, especially in colonized, racialized, and media-driven environments. Again, who has the microphone? Who is able to say, who's able to tell the story? And so personal narrative hijack, this theory, this idea, it fills the gap by offering an interdisciplinary lens, synthesizing critical race theory, media studies, transformative learning, self-actualization, psychology, just to name a few. Again, who narrates your life? Self-actualization is directly related to the idea of narratology. So we look at the systemic operation of personal narrative hijacking, the taking of somebody's story, the authoring of somebody's story. There's things like racism, there are things like systems, there are things like education, any of the kind of, if you look at the body, there's a circulatory system, the respiratory system, all these things where things flow. And so what are the systems that exist in the place where you live, where things flow? Well, education is a system, right? Media is a system. The cultural or the pop cultural ideas, the systems that are in the municipalities or in the governments, the policies in the job where you work. A part of the genesis of the research for me, or the idea for me, was looking at these psychometric tests, these personality assessments. These things say who you are. And I say they say who you are in that context. And why is that important? Well, you take that personal behavioral assessment for the employer, so that employer has a better idea of how to utilize you to impact their bottom line, how they can make more money in an efficient way. And who you are at your job, the question I would posit there is that who you are in your personal life, the person that you are in your professional life? Is there a dichotomy there? Is there a synergy there? Ideas like code switching and all these things that have come up in our dialogue in our culture. But again, starting with even your own diary or journal entry, or your own thoughts as you are at the gym or in the shower or in a bubble bath or with your family. What is your lived experience? The somatic operation, soma, of the body, are manifesting as internalized shame, physiological stress responses, and fragmented self-identity embedded in the body. This was my experience. It is something that I currently manage as well. And I also posit that this is our, as humans, experience as well. And so there are three core elements of personal narrative hijacking, and we'll talk more about the systemic operation as well as the somatic operation in a little bit. But the barrier or the experience, so you must be on a journey toward realizing your potential, or just living life, and on the journey of wanting to get as much as you can out of a life, not just on a physical plane, but an emotional, a mental, a spiritual plane as well. The individual construction of the agency, right? So you must be attempting to author your own story in that stage of development. And there's an interruption of that process. Something external imposes an alternative narrative that conflicts with your lived truth, your intuition, your values that are embedded in your being. And so this is what we're talking about. So what the literature explains is where I spent a lot of time intersecting with these ideas and discovering where it breaks down. So you have self-actualization, you have structural power, you have narrative identity, you have mythic structures. So we talk about what does it mean to tell a story? Well, we have to talk about the hero's journey. We have to talk about the quintessential construction, what is taught in our schools, what is taught in our culture. When you look at Hollywood, when you look at the streaming services, when you look at music, When you look at poetry, how do we tell these stories? There's a structure that you could elicit from that. And that's what was bedrock about Joseph Campbell's work. Again, another example of how what he put forth is not actually what is ubiquitous now. The hero's journey, even the other offerings, the heroine's journey by Maureen Murdoch, the feminist critique of the hero's journey, even more so not something that we are familiar with in our popular culture. And in indigenous epistemologies, worldviews. So as a narrative process, self-actualization is not a trait, it's not a fixed achievement, but it is a process dependent upon meaning making and narrative coherence. Barriers are examined through identity disruption, not deficit. So there's an experience, there's an interruption, and that happens in that experience, and there's interpretation. We're always making meaning making machines, as one scholar puts it. So how do I make sense of what happened? That's the story that we're telling, the coherence for that individual, and then the agency, the capacity for self-authorship. So where the narrative breaks, the development stalls, story ownership becomes a prerequisite for sustained growth and agency. Self-congruity, a theory, all right? So consumers evaluate brands based on perceived alignment between the brand's symbolic image and their own self-concept. Nike, just do it, for example. There's a correlation particularly robust in Western nations. When you think of people as consumers, as buyers in capitalist, in particular, societies where that is the system, capitalism. Cultural narratives through entertainment co-opt individuals' meaning making, distorting their authentic self-concept. What did most people do during the pandemic? What do most people do in their 5 to 9, outside of their 9 to 5? There's some kind of entertainment. And again, I posit that if you look at that entertainment, there is some kind of agenda. There is some kind of co-opting happening there. Cultural context, American culture as propaganda. American culture operates through deeply embedded values, belief systems, and dominant narratives that exert considerable influence over individual and collective identity formation. Rugged individualism, manifest destiny, and we could coin many terms here. But these are a part of what is in the air, right? This process is often invisible. It is normalized through repetition across media, education, and social institutions. They are shaping how we interpret the world and our place within it. You could look at some people say, I just want to eat right. I just want to eat well. Well, then when you step outside of your home and you go to get food, what are your options? That significantly impacts your ability to say and do. Media and cultural hegemony. So there's a shaping of societal values through our movies, through our music, through our TV, through our literature, through our streaming. What does it mean to be successful? What is beauty? What is morality? What is happiness? Media is there to provide an answer. Streaming is there, social media, as well as the traditional times of old, as I tell my students, I'm from the 1900s, so radio, TV. Structural barriers. We talked about this a little bit. What are the things that exist in the institutions? The socio-economic inequalities. Who is benefiting from all of this? The historic legacies. As a Black man, in growing up from the southwest part of the U.S., my people didn't originate from here. My name, Frasure, it was not a name that came from my people. It was a name that was given to my people, not as a gift. My great-great-grandfather was freed on Juneteenth in Navasota, Texas. And so when we talk about what are the legacies of that, my own story, digging into that and being able to self-author and say, well, here's where my options are. I could be what I can see. What happens if all you can see is the inequalities, the things that people in music and entertainment often say, this is my reality that I'm representing. School to prison pipeline is another example of one of those realities that people have given voice to. The disruptions of narratives, again, where I experienced it in my own experience of school, not just as a student, but also as an educator. It's ubiquitous. Wilkerson's caste system, one of those great kind of commas in this conversation, to pause and to think and to take stock and to look around, more like a semicolon maybe. These structures can be internalized to one's self-detriment, carrying additional layers of narrative hijacking that individuals carry within their own consciousness. I think of Carter G. Woodson's Miseducation of the Negro, and the things that he shared, that the concepts around when you show somebody what they're able to do, or when you condition a mind, well, then that conditioned mind will carry out the processes. You won't even have to be present for that condition to continue to impact. So if we look at an example, there are conventional theories and social work curriculum inadvertently reinforced institutional racism by failing to integrate theories that authentically reflect the communities served. This perpetuates oppressive practices and exacerbates existing inequities, with education systems functioning as personal narrative hijacking mechanisms. Students who do not conform to the dominant cultural expectations find their experience marginalized, their knowledge systems dismissed, their narratives rewritten through Eurocentric and other frameworks. So this comes out of the research. And then again, there's the idea of the Western views and the comparison, contrast, the evaluation of this versus indigenous worldviews or Eastern worldviews. There's a linear progression: individual achievement, separation of self from the community, hierarchical thinking, process-oriented temporality. In indigenous worldviews, they're cyclical, so they're not the lines, they're the circles. They're not the pyramids, they're the circles. Relational identity, interconnection with the land, there's synergy and synthesis, community, holistic, it's not individual, it's collective. Achieving comprehensive conceptualization as self as both social and individual remains a work in progress, requiring integration of diverse epistemological frameworks. Indigenous perspectives on self-actualization. Why is this important? Because when Maslow was talking about this, he was talking about this out of the context of his own experience of going to live amongst the Siksika nation. And in his experience in America, 80% or more people do not have the experience of self-actualization, even to this day. However, in the indigenous community where he lived during that summer and he did his research, most of the people were self-actualized and they were born that way. So what a contrast to say that you're born self-actualized versus, well, you have to achieve self-actualization. Humans doing versus humans being. These are different concepts. Indigenous cultures offer perspectives emphasizing integration of spiritual, communal, and environmental dimensions, rejecting the compartmentalization, the separation of the individual from the collective. When we talk again about storytelling, the hero's journey and a narrative structure, there's a lot of relation, because when Campbell was unearthing these ideas to share in our culture, he looked at mythology, storytelling, meaning making throughout societies. And so there's this motif that runs through. He codified this system. There's that call to adventure, there's the trials and the challenges, these thresholds, there's the attaining of the rhythm, and there's a return back to your community with something. Whereas what we see now, there's a return, but maybe there may not be that integration with the community. Again, the heroine's journey highlights the feminine experiences of healing and integration. In brief, you could say that what people often would say about the hero's journey is about conquering, what they would say about the heroine's journey, it is about connecting. But what I would argue is that there's a space there for compassion that is missed in both of these journeys that are put forth again in our culture, again, displaced from the original ideas that were present there. All right. And so we look at narratology as an important way of thinking through these ideas, the hero's journey, the heroine's journey. Who is the journey built for? When imposed, these templates can become scripts that individuals are expected to perform. The archetypes, right? The hero, the villain, excuse me. And the closest that I could see to what it was that I was unearthing and feeling in the research that I was doing, it looks at the work of Carl Jung. But again, these Jungian archetypes, they shape psychology, education, leadership discourse, and popular culture. You see them pervasive throughout. The concerns arise when these archetypes override cultural specificity and flatten difference. Archetypal thinking can unintentionally constrain lived meaning making when imposed rather than interpreted. So when archetypes are imposed, they function as a containment device, pressuring individuals to locate themselves within predefined symbolic roles, as opposed to a powerful way to interpret experience. Again, this is not something you could do alone. This is something you do in community. In indigenous cultures, you are born, and the work of Katz elicits this. You're born and you may live for generations with people. And so you learn to live differently. One of the pieces of media that I really appreciate is the Viking series, Vikings. And one of the things that struck me as I watched that series was this idea that was present in that story, that when you're conquering and you're moving about, you don't have to live with the consequences of your actions. But when you have to stay and plant and grow, well, then you might be different. Empathy might come forth. Compassion may come forth. Whereas if you're just conquering and moving on, you don't have to live with the realities. And it's often like what people will talk about, this idea of bullying and the phenomenon of bullying. Well, when I don't have to live with the facial expressions and the body language and the moment of that person being hurt by my words or my actions, I could just swipe left. Well, then, it's inconsequential to me, that action of bullying. And so when you're in community, you're in that circle. My enemy is my neighbor, is my enemy, is my friend, is my, that sort of thing. You do not get away from your consequences, the results of your experiences with people. What you say and what you do, it reverberates. Indigenous scholarship contributions. I mean, even when we think about this, where are the indigenous voices? Where are the Eastern voices in these conversations that we have? And so Maslow's conceptualization may reflect Western individualistic values, potentially overlooking the cultural nuances in non-Western contexts. And again, the hierarchy is something that he never posited or presented. He never gave a pyramid, but that was something that the businesses that he and the institutions that he advised as a consultant, they took that and ran with it, because that's how that could live in those environments where they were concerned about their bottom line, their employees, the ecosystem of those systems, those businesses. So it's a business concept, the idea of the hierarchy. And so the question of becoming is wholeness is not postponed. Becoming, being, you're whole from the outset, not deficient beings progressing toward worthiness. You do not earn this. You learn this. So I've talked a little bit about these things here. Let me go forth here. So one of the important central, the essential theme is to reclaim your narrative. A pattern emerges across all of the theories and all of the studies and the research, the intersection of our narrative identity and self-actualization. You may genuinely experience self-actualization in America if you can reclaim your narrative from external or internal forces. So this research focuses on how they become internalized and how the internalization can be recognized, resisted, and transformed. So we bridge the gap of how you can do that, of the synthesis of all these disparate parts that we have been identified by scholars, Maslow, Kaufman, and others. But when you put all that together, what does the picture look like? What is the synthesis of this? And it's importantly, is powerful when you look at, again, the pervasive systems, Jim Crow, caste, school to prison pipeline, because it's a different experience for my Anglo brothers and sisters than it is for my Native brothers and sisters, even as it has been for myself as a Black African American. So we study it from the inside. I'm speaking as one, and it felt only right that the autoethnographic way of approaching this, or lens, with other methodologies, phenomenology, somatic awareness, these things, the kind of grounded lived experience or grounded theory, would be appropriate to distill the essence of what it is to have your narrative hijacked, to have the experience of reclaiming your narrative. Transformative phenomenology, indigenous epistemologies, auto hermeneutics, so self hermeneutics, interpretation of self, your body's text, your life experience as text, somatic awareness. So Husserl and Gadamer hermeneutics. So these are the scholars that we look at when we study hermeneutics. The distinction between lived and interpreted experiences. So when we talk about hermeneutics, of course, we're talking about, the mythological god Hermes giving the information to humans from the gods to interpret that experience. There's a spiritual aspect. There's a physical aspect. This is an embodied methodology. Embodied knowing is central to transformative phenomenology. Truth arises through the interplay of somatic awareness, right? The body is not simply a site of memory, but an active participant in meaning making. Sensations, tensions, breath patterns, and physical responses provide essential data about how narrative hijacking manifests itself and how reclamation unfolds. So the collection of the data from your lived experience, what I did in the research journals, I created a protocol that was highly informed by the protocols of transformative phenomenology. Interviews, somatic observations as a coach, as an executive leadership coach, as a mental health coach. The questions are, and even as an educator, the questions are paramount, the kinds of questions. From there, the initial coding, the thematic clusters, recognizing the patterns, and then the integration. So this is how we looked at lived experience through thematic to get to thematic insight. Of course, utilizing Braun and Clark's analysis framework and adapted for autoethnographic data. So a little bit here about how I maintain scholarly integrity with autoethnographic research, reflexivity, review, transparency. This dissertation rejects the false binary between objectivity and subjectivity, but positioning reflexivity as a methodological strength when made explicit. So the idea of transparency and all of these things. Common critiques to autoethnographic or this methodology, their subjectivity concerns, lack of generalization, self-indulgence risks, limited reproducibility. You're talking about your own experience. But this critical reflexivity as a research tool, the triangulation with theoretical literature, the empirical research, and the emphasis on transferability rather than replication. So findings contribute to understanding the underrepresented narratives and identity development under structural constraint, offering insights applicable across contexts. When I speak on my experience, I can say with confidence that I'm speaking not just on my experience, the embodied narrative reflection protocol. So this is the core methodological contribution. So I developed a custom reflection protocol. This is in the dissertation. When you go and you can look in the appendices, the actual questions, how to structure this. You could take it, you could do it yourself. And that's what I have been doing in workshops, in coaching. How do we embark upon the journey of in a specific moment in time with another person or with a group of people, a group of young boys, a group of young women, a group of professionals to elicit this experience of reclaiming your narrative. Again, we're looking at the systemic, the somatic aspects of this, what's on the outside and how that's impacting us coming through that threshold of our physical body. 10 primary themes were elicited when I went into or under the knife, as I say, because I was, I tried this out on myself, right? These theories and ideas. And so these are the themes in brief. Systemic mechanisms of narrative hijacking is a cluster. So the first cluster was systemic disruption. I talked a little bit about that there. And then we have, as I alluded to or as I spoke to before, the educational aspect. So in particular, in my own experience, teachers' rebuffs and silencing in grade 3, a teacher told me I asked too many questions. My intellectual curiosity was read as defiance, engagement interpreted as disruption, right? And so when I think to myself about myself in this context, one of 18 Black students in this school, when I graduated high school, I was one of 18, having that experience, being excluded from certain opportunities because of the neurodivergency or the just difference because of a nonconformity. But there's work out there in critiquing the American educational system and education systems in general. But this is part of the research. This is part of the exploration. The second cluster was the somatic manifestation. What it felt like in my chest, what it felt like in my breath. People who now are disconnected from their experience in their physical body and in their emotions. When that happened, how did that make you feel? How many professionals that's hard for them to articulate? How many leaders? How many CEOs? I remember reading an article that said if you were to give a personality assessment to CEOs and people, and it would come back as a psychopath. What does that say, right? What is that story? What's the interpretation of that? Narrative harm cannot be addressed through cognitive reframing alone. This is not an intellectual exercise alone. It must be involving the embodied awareness and regulation. This is often with my clients elicit the idea of when you watch a scary movie and there's a jump scare, it's not logical that you would physically respond in such a way because you're in one of the safest places. It's a two-dimensional screen, you're eating popcorn, drinking, whatever it is, enjoying that entertainment, yet your body cannot tell the difference between what is real and what is perceived. And so the body physically responds to the imagined or the thought realities. The body keeps the score. Bessel van der Kolk. It is not only a recorder of trauma, but also a site of emergent meaning. The body is lived, sentient archive of experience and identity, muscle, memory. I feel it in my gut. My intuition lives in my gut, right? These ideas that have been a part of what it is that we know. Some people have a hard time doing deep breath work, especially when their voice has been strangled as a young people or in their experience. So they have to be intentional about catching their breath, breathing. Narrative suppression is deeply embodied. It's not solely physiological. It's not solely psychological. Remember, we are multi-part beings, mind, body, emotion, and also soul, spirit. So what does that look like for our medical system? What does that look like for our medical care? for you? What does it look like for you? How do you breathe? How's your cardiovascular? How's your stress? Who do you know that suffers from nervous system, respiratory, cardiovascular, muscular, neuro? How much are we living the results of the dramas and the traumas of having our narrative hijacked? And what was the light at the end of the tunnel? It's not a train unless you're going somewhere, which we are all going somewhere. Um, as they say metaphorically, right? The light at the end of the tunnel. Through all the darkness, creative resistance and narrative reclamation. Through healing, through artistic expression, ancestral wisdom. Again, being in that circle for generations. So I'm talking to great-great-grandfather, grandfather, grandmother, neighbor, cousin, friend, enemy, foe, friend. All these people are in my community. And so then there's the potential for, the probability is higher for potential, for healing, for empowerment, for collective transformation. Poetry, rap and spoken word. Poetry is rap and spoken word. The most popular form of poetry in the history of the world, rap music, hip hop music. Somatic reflection, ancestral connection. In essence, building a garden out of a junkyard is one way of capturing what that journey was like for me and what it is for so many people that I've worked with and so many people that I've seen do this effectively. Again, there's a cyclical nature of this identity transformation because there are so many things that want to take our story from us. Embodied knowing and transformation. The poetic metaphors. Metaphors are a powerful thing. A powerful thing. It's a convention of storytelling. So what these findings mean, again, we look at the research, read the dissertation, read the articles and the things that we're doing. Narrative sovereignty. You'll see the bridge. You'll see the growth in all of these. And there's implications for education when individuals are being selected for gifted and talented programs or for opportunities. Culturally responsive pedagogy, revising assessment, development of our educators, identity affirming mentorship, right? This is the primary area in which one develops themselves. When you just look at it, the hours of a day, how many hours of the day do our children spend within these institutions? Leadership development for dominant groups, for marginalized groups, sacred story and practice, and coaching, workshops, team development, organizational transformation. All right. This is a core leadership competency, right? And we could look at DEI and all these acronyms that kind of come and go, but this is recession proof. This is administration proof, right? We look at the terminology because we're talking about the human experience. So narrative reclamation as a leadership strategy in coaching and leadership development and consulting and organizational transformation. You're developing your team, the culture of that space. Now repositioning those psychometric evaluations, right? Community interventions, expressive arts. Where are those third spaces? Where are those live art, those aesthetic experiences, those dramatic experiences? Storytelling framework, cultural mentorship, embodiment practices. Again, we talked about media misrepresentation, but what about media representation, right? How can we counter the offerings that are present and be able to continue to critique that? That's the beautiful thing about being in a society where ideas are on the table and you can divide them up. Well, again, you have to be at the table with those ideas. You can't just be in the room. So, we talked about educators and practitioners, right? The sacred story framework as an idea of conceptualizing this, right? Acknowledging the suppressed narratives, creating space for authentic voice, integrating embodied experience, and supporting ongoing transformation. So some notes here about theory. There's a systemic analysis, there's agency and resistance, there's embodied integration and challenging individualism, right? It's so rich. It's rather concentrate, right? The dissertation is not long, but it is a door into this work that I am continuing to do. And it is, again, something that we are all doing because the framework is awareness to acceptance, to adjustment, to action. So the personal and the structural, we can get to the transformational. That's a way of thinking about it as a bridge, right? Remembering as resistance. Narrative reclamation is an ethical and scholarly act. Remembering who you are is not nostalgia, but resistance. It is a refusal to accept imposed narratives as truth, but naming narrative hijacking. We're looking at language for experiences. So many things can be, if you could name it, then you can actually do something. You can address it. The first part is how can we name it? The body as a site of liberation, sensation, symbol, story. Bodily distress and creative expression through poetry, music, the arts. And again, what is it you're doing in your 5 to 9 outside of your 9 to 5, outside of in service for survival or for, you're fortunate enough to do something that you love for money. What do you do for living? The individual level is impacted. We do not neglect that, we integrate that collectively. Systemic solutions, addressing the institutional practices, the cultural narratives, and the structural inequities. This is necessity. From an epistemological standpoint, again, we're looking at Western psychology, indigenous wisdom, phenomenology, somatic knowing, hermeneutics, Eastern, this is just part of this circle of the universe, the world of our understanding. Of course, we can acknowledge limitations, right? Again, I'm coming from the primarily Western context where media drives most things these days. How you say what it is that you say. Situated within one's lived experience, not directly generalized. You can't stretch this across everybody. The particulars, but what is highlighted is when people tell their stories, other people can empathize, other people connect. You find yourself in others. And so cross-cultural studies, multi-participant autoethnographies, quantitative measurement, some of the ideas that I heard in the room are part of what could happen in other research directions, somatic digital storytelling, logic. This is all part of the work that I'm now doing. I mentioned these themes earlier, so there's just a shot there. You could screenshot it if you'd like, but again, it's in the dissertation. Remember who you are, reclaiming your narrative from popular entertainment culture. The core message is that for marginalized communities in particular, there is activism that is required. There's a journey that looks a little different for all of us, but collectively, we must do this work if we want to have the experience on a consistent basis of transcendence and self-actualization. Embodied awareness, creative expression, ancestral wisdom, community connection. We stand on the shoulders of giants. We did not get here on our own. All right. Well, appreciate your time and your attention.
Darius, thank you so much. My goodness, it's so rich. There's so much here, and really, you've done 2 or 3 dissertations here. It sure looks like to me. And how to get it out? Then the dissemination is going to be an interesting question going forward here. Uh, wow, there's so much here. It's so rich in so many different ways, and I'm thinking who you can get this to, who could help, bring it out there into the landscape further. I might note too that as an anthropologist, especially an anthropologist of East Asia and Southern Asia, um, many of these questions are very similar over here.
Yes.
But the hijacking has taken place in different ways. The hijack, the metaphors that are over here, they're not, over here and in India, are not about rugged individualism. No, no,
Right.
no. They saying in Japanese is derukuyo wa utareru, which means the stake that sticks out gets hammered down. It usually gets translated as the nail that sticks out, but it's in fact a stake. But anyway, that it's the kind of flip side of what we're doing. So how we can learn from each other. And thank you so much for bringing in the poetry and somatics. And wow, it's so rich. How to unpack it a lot. Now, I'll be able to stick around for a little bit longer, but it is coming up on 1:30 a.m. over here in Japan.
Yeah.
So, but you are all welcome to continue the conversations. I will stay on a little bit longer, but let's see who has questions and comments and so on here. Thank you all for hanging here with us. Questions, comments. I see many people here whose work has echoes of what you're doing.
Right.
So,
Exactly.
yeah. So, anybody like to jump in here?
I'll
Most
jump
welcome,
in.
Yemi.
Yeah.
Oh, Dia is there and
Um,
Yemi is there. Okay, I don't know who came first here. Dia, okay, your voice
I
and
think
then
we kind of
Yemi.
like
Yeah,
jumped it
yeah.
at the same time. Um, I appreciate your presentation, and I'm looking forward to jumping into your dissertation because I did an indigenous autoethnography,
Nice.
um, and it was geared towards how we use ancestral dream knowledge for planetary healing.
Yeah. Yeah.
One of the main underlying messages is that there's an ongoing conversation about the system, which is a symptom. And yes, it is a conversation that has to be ongoing. However, if we're going to build anything that's not a reflection or a continuation of these very systems that we're talking about, we need to get to the architecture, right? We need to identify the architect and the engineer so that we don't take their harmful narratives
Right.
and place it into whatever it is that we'd like to build in the future. So as I was going through this, I was like, okay, I can see this,
Yeah.
and I'm like, what's the underlying thing? He has to talk about the underlying thing, but at the same time, people aren't there yet. You know, it's like and I'm just saying this for me to remind myself, people are just coming to what you're talking about,
Right.
right?
Yeah.
Names define that which is named,
Yeah.
and that which does the naming controls or influences the one that's named.
Right.
So that's like the first step that a lot of people are just getting at, which
Yeah.
is work that needs to happen. At the same time, we need to look at the architecture so that we don't take our claimed process of liberation and repeat the same architecture as well. So I
Yeah.
just think it's really great that I'm seeing this aspect in the academic space, the colonial academic space, because the general population has their own conversations, but they're also missing the points that you're raising and the points that I've raised. So it's good that the conversation is out there.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yes. Look forward to
Really,
reading your
really
work.
important points, Dia. I'm sorry, Darius. Sorry.
Yeah, I said look forward to reading your work. that's energizing.
A lot of crossover between the two of you, absolutely. And of course, Four Arrows, welcome. Four Arrows work as well.
Yeah.
Certainly, my goodness, and a good deal of this really is about colonization and imperialism and imposing systems and identities on all of us. Really, really thoughtful work here. You both of you, Darius and Dia. Yemi, your comment, question.
Yeah, just a comment. I just want to say thank you to Darius. I have interacted with you on several occasions, and I see the brilliance of your work. And I just wanted to openly acknowledge that brilliance and to say that I really, really enjoyed listening to this, and I would definitely be reading your dissertation. Another thing I wanted to say is the hijacking of narratives. I believe that it may date back to a long time ago when people have used this as a weapon of oppression.
Yeah.
So, or to their own advantage. So
Yes.
they tell you, they make your stories the way they want it to be so that it can benefit them. And so I'm looking at it also like you can take it, maybe, I don't know if you're already looking at this social justice angle
Yeah.
of this. It's so important that we continue to make other people aware, shine light on the self-awareness aspect of this, letting people understand that their stories are theirs and they should not they should not allow somebody else to tell their stories for them. And looking at the ways that you can get this out there, I was thinking, we have this very powerful medium of social media now, and
Yeah.
podcasts are growing, and I don't know
Yeah.
if you've thought about, going on a podcast or starting your own podcast, because what you've shared today can go for like 52 weeks.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
That's a year, and
That
it
makes
goes
Easily.
in history. Whatever you put out there now stays there. It stays there, and generations can go back to it and read and hear it, and they get that into their awareness. So I just wanted to say
Yeah.
that to you. That could be a good way to disseminate this very important information that you have. Thank you for your
Sure.
work. Outstanding work. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Yeah. Yeah. I've got a couple of invitations, and again, it's you all in this room and others, because I can't do it all by myself, right? But there are aspects of this where I'm situated, where I'm able to, okay, as an educator, as an artist, as a poet, as a mentor, but where are my colleagues who are in the legal spaces, right? Where are my colleagues who are more boots on the ground in the activism spaces? Um, you know, we all need each other, right? Um, yeah, the war is on all fronts: sea, air, land, spirit.
So true. We all need each other. Thank you, Darius, for that, for sure. Other comments, questions that people might have for Dr. Darius here? Thoughts, whatever you'd like to share. Danielle.
Hi, Darius. This is Miranda. I had a question.
Hi.
Miranda.
Yes.
Yes, earlier you were saying, and I missed that part of it, that when someone starts to reclaim their narrative and you're dealing with external forces, it sounded like there was a step or an action you had recommended. What is that? Thank you.
Well, to put it briefly, it is not, I'll say this about knowledge, right? And about steps and those kinds of things, right? It is not something that we are owning. It is something that we are expressing, experiencing. So there are many ways in which you can experience this. Well, one way of saying it is that there's awareness, And then there is, and this is part of the framework that I use when I'm coaching, awareness, right? The knowledge, the vocabulary, mentally, emotionally, name the emotion, mentally, what are those thoughts? What are those beliefs? What are those feelings internally with the emotion, externally with the body and the physical? All right, the awareness, acceptance. Where am I resisting? What am I allowing? What can I control? What can I control? What can I influence? Right. And then from the adjustment to that reality that we are able, and this is the tools, right? These are the kind of the ways of expressing how one can have this experience. Okay, what are the adjustments that I make? What do I begin to allow? Not accept as an agreement or as an endorsement, but accept as this is the reality. The world is not as it should, would, or could be. It is what it is, right? My family, my job. Okay, so all right, now what are my options, right? So whether it's mental health coaching or executive leadership coaching or really situating yourself within that context, awareness, acceptance, adjustment, and then actions. They kind of proceed from there, right? It becomes more clear. I would highlight here that our instincts, as a way of saying it, are built upon, from a bioevolutionary standpoint, survival, right? And that's another way of which this is framed. I was raised off survival. I was raised off fear versus love, those kinds of concepts. But to say, from a bioevolutionary standpoint, my emotions, my beliefs, these things that in my instincts, they're conditioned and heavily polluted or toxified. It could be even argued or experienced. To say this is how you survive. So you take on addictive patterns and behaviors, things of that nature. But what does intuition say? What does spirit say? Right? What is truth? What is the gut? What does that say? And that is what we all have. That is what we all have access to. That's all we all have. And when you start looking at those things again, it'll become apparent. It'll be emergent. It's like, just look over here, right? And then you could. So that's kind of a way of kind of pointing at it in a nutshell. Does that help with your question?
Yes, excellent. And when someone undertakes that process, it's incredibly empowering. But I also like the point you made about living in community. Yeah. It requires such great responsibility on the part of all of us who live in that community, and calls us to a higher standard. And yet we've seen the disintegration of community and the pursuit of self-interest to the demise of community, which is unfortunate. So we have to return to community. Thank you.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah. Again,
Great,
this is
great
not
comments.
individual, this is collective. Mm-hmm.
Oh, yeah, just, so important to focus there. The British had this idea when they were colonizing India of divide and rule.
There you go.
And that's what they're doing.
Yeah.
Right. And also distraction is a big part of what's going on here too.
Yep.
I want to thank you, Darius, and everyone. I'm going to leave now because it's almost 1:30 in the morning over here. But you all feel free to stay on for a little bit longer. There's so much to talk about. Absolutely. But thank you again, Darius. Oh my goodness, this is just so rich. Yeah.
Yes.
So we'll see you all. Yeah.
Thank
See
you.
y'all.
Thank you, David.
And again, the dissertation is on ProQuest. So if you just type in my name or the title of the dissertation, it'll come right up if you have access to ProQuest wherever you are. And currently in the process of translating it, of course, in our articles, and I have invitations to speak and do retreats and things of that nature. And they're open for all of those. DariusFrasure.com is my website. You could also go to my LinkedIn, Darius Frasure. I'm on those things primarily. To reach out. Let's collaborate.
I did have one other comment, Darius.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
This is Miranda again.
Yes.
So, I mean, we all see what's happening with Venezuela right now, and it's incredibly surreal for indigenous people on the world stage to witness it collectively. And I'm just going, this is what happened 500 plus years ago. And now it's on the world stage for all to see and unfold and to witness the atrocity of it, and the reaction for me is just surreal. Thank you.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. We can say the same about Gaza and other
Yes.
places. Yeah.
Yes.
Well, I just got off of a call, but two of my favorite new doctors I knew were going to be here, and I just wanted to tune in just to let you know I'm thinking about you and thanking you for your work and the there's too much to say, so I've got to go back to what I was doing, but I wanted to tune in, so keep
Yes,
up,
sir.
keep up the
Gratitude.
How'd you not be here for hours?
Gratitude.
Okay, what's that?
He was also my chair. So
Nice. Oh, yeah. Yeah. Phenomenal scholar and coach and chair and mentor.
yeah.
I don't know if anyone knew this. So in the news about 2 weeks or so ago, the USA also struck Nigeria.
Yeah,
I don't know
right.
if anyone heard
Christmas.
that.
I was aware
Okay.
of that. Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
so talking
Was it
about
Christmas?
narratives, I'm a
Oh.
Nigerian, originally from Nigeria, and
Mhm.
the narrative for their reason for striking Nigeria was for the terrorists. They said, so
Right.
we know that
Yeah.
there's that safety or security issue from the northern part of Nigeria. Okay, and there's a government in Nigeria, and there's, even talking about sovereignty of nations, and
Yeah.
America took it upon itself to go there and say, they're killing Christians, they're killing
Yeah.
Christians alone. Now, when
Yeah.
these people kill, they're bandits, and it's an internal issue, internal problem within Nigeria. And so when they killed, they don't ask to say, are you Christian or are you Muslim before they
Right.
kill. They kill, they wipe out villages. We know that what they're doing is bad. Nobody's saying that's good, but does it give a country the right to go in there and just, on a sovereign soil and begin to do other things? But we all know why America is doing what it's doing. It's because of the resources, the oil, and all of that in Nigeria. And all of this stems from the storytelling
Yeah.
of what they've been able to tell. And you actually find some Nigerians rejoicing and happy that, oh, they came in and they're helping them without knowing that there's always a motive behind all of these storytellings. And that was why I said initially that this have been, this narrative, hijacking of narrative has been used over and over again since time
Yeah.
past to oppress as a weapon of oppression or just to do whatever benefits them. And so
Exactly.
that's
That.
that's where things are. What a time to be alive. It's
Yeah.
just something.
But I mean, you go back throughout humans since humans have been humaning and ask the question, who benefits from this? Right.
Mhm.
And that's the idea of hijack, right? To say that we have a real issue, a legitimate issue, even on a personal level, right? I have real legitimate uh, emotions, right? What's the story that's being told about those emotions, right? About the anger that you just felt, in interpersonal relationships, right? Um, validation, invalidation, but who benefits from how it's being talked about? That's one of those critical questions, right? Who benefits from how this is being phrased in the state of Texas where I am? There's a legitimate issue with our economy, with our electric grid, with our educational system. And depending on what powers are, right, what legislators who make, or what politicians that make legislation, because educators don't, right? What political dominant group is in office, then they could say, oh, well, the kids can't read because they need X, Y, and Z. It's a legitimate issue, but is it a legitimate answer or is it a legitimate story? And, you know, tribalism, right? I'm going along with it because that's my uncle. You're not gonna tell me anything about my uncle. That's my cousin, or or that's my my clan, that's my tribe, that's my Democrat, that's my Republican, that's my liberal, that's, that fidelity, right? That makes things problematic because, we try to approach things from a logical standpoint, but beliefs, tribalism, emotions, these things do not listen to logic. They do not respond to them. They cannot be overcome with facts. But those facts do the same material, right? A hammer could be a weapon, even though it is a tool. It could be used as a weapon,
Hmm.
right?
Interesting. Yeah.
What you were talking about there, if I could,
Yeah, go ahead.
there's so many interesting
Mhm.
things that are popping through my head, but like in-group bias or out-group bias and how that impacts how we interact with others or how we think about others. So when you're
Yep,
talking about the tribalism, kind of along those same lines.
yep, yep. We have all that implicit biases, right? That's what we talk about in corporate. That's kind of been teased out, but again, it's our subjective experience, right? Like I have a certain bent, towards certain things. I have certain preferences. So when I see things, that's going to be a part of it. So it's not about forgetting those things. It's not about forgetting your individualism. No, when we say harmony, we mean individual notes together. And it's so beautiful, right? The tenor, the alto, the soprano, the baritone. Oh my goodness, we love that, right? Those of us who love music, and there are different flavors of music. You have polka, you got country, you got, gospel, you got all these different ways in which you can do harmony. So, you know, to say everything is, one thing, it's like, nah, integrate it, synthesize.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. It makes me think a little bit too, and if I'm off the mark here, if this is completely off topic, please let me know because I want to say first off, this has been phenomenal listening to your talk. It definitely hit a lot of notes in ways I wasn't expecting. So thank you so much for sharing all this.
Mhm.
And I would love to talk for hours, but I know we don't have hours.
Yeah.
So um, one of the things that it made me think of, so when you're talking about reclaiming the narrative with marginalized communities in Western context, it was more on a grand scale, like not just like the individual narrative, and then also thinking about it like overall, like how it all like the individual narratives create like a collective narrative in a sense. Yes or
Yeah, well,
yeah.
that's a part of it, right?
Yeah.
Because you have
Hmm.
individuals who are in positions of powers that come
Hmm.
together, right? That's where you get the idea of oligarchy. That's where you get the idea of, some of these other terms, right? Monarchy, feudalism, etc. The few, rule of many by few, right? But the idea of me doing it as autoethnography, right, is to say, I have experienced this phenomenon as a part of the larger, like if somebody was doing ethnography that looks at that essence or that phenomenon from a group of people, right, who are experiencing it. I'm like, well, I'm an individual and I can start with me, right?
Hmm.
And from there, there's there are other works that kind of are along this line, but the idea is to stimulate and connect with others who will do the groups, right? To go and go back to where you work, where you teach, where you live, where you play, and get those groups and ask those kind of thought-provoking questions. Your family as a group, right? Your marriage as a group, yourself, right? And to say, use the language that I provided in the dissertation, use that narrative, the protocol, right, as a way of kind of entering in. But yeah, definitely let it take wings and go into other things. It is said that you can count the seeds in the apple, but you cannot count the apples in the seed. So I'm Johnny Appleseed, and you are too.
I like that. That's very cool. That's very cool. With the community I'm a part of here in Big Sky, um there's a lot of mental health issues and one
Mhm.
of the there are various things contributing to it, but you can definitely see it when you like get to talk with the locals that live here. And
Mhm.
there's this movie called Paradise Paradox that goes into some of the
Mhm.
mental health issues within specifically like mountain resort communities.
Mhm.
And one of the groups I'm a part of is looking to destigmatize mental health issues here and then also create community and connection because there is such a level of isolation with
Mhm.
just being in a mountain community. There's only one way in or out, not a lot of mental health services.
Yeah.
People come for a season, they leave for a season, so you can't always create a community.
Mhm.
And so the past 2 years, we've done this storytelling event where community members get up on
There
stage
you go.
and they share their stories.
Yep.
And it is so when you were talking about the
Yep.
storytelling, it's pretty impactful and incredible how
Yep.
someone sharing their story then connects with others.
Exactly.
Mhm.
Yeah. Yeah. Yep. Yep. Exactly. You know, people can see themselves in the world, in that, just the validation that comes from that, the echoing. And we know this on a personal level. When you look at therapy, when you look at coaching, when you look at mentoring, when you think of counseling, how powerful those things are.
Mhm.
Um, Talk about the professional and the personal. And you know, there's a phrase out here that says it's not business. I mean, it's not personal, it's just business. And it's like, well, who are you doing business with? Persons. And so
Mhm.
it matters how you treat people. You know what they say: be careful who you step on your way up. They may be the ones passing or something. You know, like we don't always get to escape, especially now as social media and um, the internet has made us more. The benefit is the ability to connect with others, like even as we're doing now, right?
Mhm.
Um, how you use it, it's a tool or it's a weapon, and we need more people doing the tools, building, nurturing, building and nurturing, constructing and nurturing.
Mhm. Absolutely. Thank you for creating a space for that to happen.
For sure, for sure.
Mhm.
Yeah, that's what we do. We create spaces, like I said. Definitely continue to chat offline, LinkedIn, FaceTimes, phone calls. Um, you know, I travel, and I also, you know, I do have the Substack, the Narratives We Must Reclaim Substack, where I'm distilling this work, in addition to a lot of the artistic things, still writing poetry, still writing stories, as well as fiction and creative nonfiction, all the genres. So storytelling is bedrock to this work. Um, and then also, you know, the coaching and the consulting as well. So yeah,
Thank you.
thank you. Yes, Gina, go ahead.
So just on the notion of what Danielle was talking about, it's kind of what I was wondering about when you were presenting.
Hmm.
Just because like with my background in clinical psych and going to be like a clinical trainee,
Hmm.
I do have training for like expressive art. So when you were talking about
Yeah,
storytelling and like and advocating, that was my question was like, well, how is this getting up to like public policy and things like that? And I know you have like
right,
legislators and all that.
right.
So like as far as like the work that I'm doing, like not to be considered like boots on the ground because there's obviously way more work to do, but like the thing of like awareness, does that start with me like, maybe saying, okay, well, let's not use CBT with this client because of, like the ethnographic research that's out there and kind of relying more on like expressive arts, poetry,
Hmm.
rap writing or like lyric writing for, if I'm working with
Hmm.
youth, is that sort of things like that are considered like advocacy or, activism? Because I'm like not too sure like where's my role in,
Yeah. Well,
because I'm not.
yeah, yeah, definitely start where you are. When I was an educator, in K-12 many moons ago, I went to the school and I was teaching English. I taught at a school, and if you go on YouTube and you can look at just type my name on YouTube, but Carter High School, the school is known for football and sports, but there are, what of the intellectuals, what of the chess, what of the dancers, what of the thespian students, right? And so I ended up, because of the need for a safe place for those students, because of the realities that were present in that space, said my classroom could be a safe space. So I had during the school day, students would come to my classroom and I got kicked out of other places. And we had a lot of different issues that made it difficult, typical urban city kind of things that you've seen represented in media to some degree. But then after school, it's like, hey, he's playing this music. Like, what is this jazz music? What is this? The music instrumentals from rap or hip hop or from R&B or from jazz or gospel. Just music without the words, right? And engaging that just for myself. Doing so first, starting where you are, starting for myself. This is what I needed to survive that environment. This is what feeds me, music, right? This is what feeds me creating my own atmosphere, my own physical environment. I could put this poster or this plant, that sort of thing. If you go to like the Ron Clark Academy, you Google it, look at it, but the idea there is that there's so much success happening with that middle school because you look at the classrooms, they're geared towards those educators. So I really love Alice in Wonderland. So you have the physical, like when you walk into that place, it looks like you walked into Wonderland, right? There are things coming out of the wall, chairs, and you walk through the threshold of a book that looks like it's been, you're opening a door, looks like the door of a book, right? The physical space is transformed so that there could be that presence there. But you start where you are, and so with yourself, what is helpful for you, and then the ones that come out because they're attracted, right? It's attractive to say, oh, peace. I want that thing that you have, oh, that joy, or that energy that you have. How can I be more around this energy? This is a safe place, especially with young people, a safe place, right? You could be a safe place as a clinical psychologist, right? As a therapist, a person can be a place, right? And so going into that place and finding safety. And so from there, I created a literary society, which was basically my classroom after school. And we looked at stuff and enjoyed things. And then I organized it. And all right, there's going to be an official club of the school. So then we had fundraisers. And then one of the things that I did initially was I took them to the spaces where I went. So if there was an open mic or a reading or the art, the Dallas Museum of Art, right? Places that the students have never even thought about going to outside of somebody saying, hey, let's go to this place that exists, right? What are those third spaces? What are those cultural spaces that the adult, like, go to this hotel, look at and hang out in the lobby for a little bit, right? This very nice hotel, right? Students haven't even, that's like, the hotels that don't have numbers, right? You know what I mean? Motel 6, Super 8, right? But like the Marriott, the Gaylord, what's that? Like, and for me, that's where I started because my students didn't have exposure and opportunity. It was one of the huge, those things are huge for a young person. Uh, it can make or break. When some people say luck, right? Exposure and opportunity. I have an opportunity and that makes all the difference. Where you are matters. What you do. I want to sell snow cones. Well, it makes a difference if you're in the Sahara Desert or if you're in Alaska, right? Supply and demand is what they say in business, right? But where can that live? Where can that thrive? Because not all places are not art for all things. Not all plants can grow in every ecological system. They don't sustain those things. So you start where you are and you do what you can. What are my options, right? For who you can, right? Who it is that you can reach. And so it's very much legitimate, the the things that you're seeing as well as the options that emerge for you. And so for me, it was nothing to say, oh, I'll just bring these students with me. I'll use some of my check to go and rent a van and I'll take them and okay, I'll get the permission slips for these kids. Parents will sign it anyway because this was the population I was dealing with. But from there came grant funding from an organization called Big Thought Arts Advocacy. So you talked about that, right? So what organizations, there's the one that existed out here, thousands of dollars to say, hey, keep doing what you're doing. Here's money. And so took that money and I was no longer just coming out of my pocket to get and doing the fundraisers as heavy. It was now we're subsidized. Now we can bring in other voices, other poets, other professionals to come in and just talk about how they do life with their art. And Creative Solutions was an organization, a program that still exists, was created by a lady by the name of Alicia Smith. And so for at-risk youth, right, those who are in the criminal justice system because of some crime, right, they're at risk. The court would order that they would do something as a form of remediation or something to that effect to impact recidivism. And so Creative Solutions was or is an organization that says we're going to hire these professional artists to teach life skills through art to this group of young people over the course of the summer. And at the end of the summer, they're going to have their own play because they had a theater person teach them theater and how to make and so we're going to take your stories, we're going to mine that. And we're going to say, okay, what's the story you guys want to tell? Here are the conventions, here are the tools. All right, we're teaching it to you. And at the end of the summer, the community is invited out and donors are invited out and they come and they watch this. And we have visual artists. And the visual artists are throughout that summer, these kids are coming through the day, Monday through Thursday or Friday, I think it was. They're working one-on-one with the sculptor, with the painter, with the person who draws, and you're having conversation. Of course, you have throughout the day specific group setting that's where you put in the yoga practices or the mindful awareness, or you kind of deal with these conceptual things. But then you're doing the art and you're interacting in community and these kids are getting to know each other and it's a different space. And even everybody there has a rap, right? They have a probation officer or they're being bussed in from the center where they're staying because they don't live at home because they've been kicked out of the school system and all these. So these are at-risk youth. And at the end of the summer, they have an art gallery. So you go watch the show and you can go to the art gallery and they're able to talk to, I'm an artist and this is what I created. And you have adults now looking at them saying, wow, look at this young artist, not this thug, not this, whatever the moniker is. So you're saying different things. And the student is having that professional experience. Like this is a job, and you create that code of conduct at the beginning. It says, okay, well, what are the fines for, what do we say? You create that culture in that community, just like you would in the classroom. Says, okay, what's permissible, what's not permissible, what are the consequences of violating the values that we have in this space. And so that's an example of somebody saying, hey, I'm a theater person. Theater is powerful. It changed my life. How do I do this for others? And then when you get that momentum going, then here comes the money, because you have certain people, and it's, there are some people who have the resources, who any kind of resource, not just money, but they have resources, and they're also touched by the things that you're touched by. And so when you intersect and it's like, man, I was moved by that. It's like, I really want to get behind what you're doing. I really want to connect and join. It's amazing. And they come from all cultures, creeds, races, ideologies, because we're talking about the human experience. So yeah, you start where you are, and there are others who are having that same experience. Not everybody's doing the work intentionally, but there are others who are doing the work, right? And that's the idea, again, that we distill and say, okay, who else is doing this work? And even being intentional about how do I connect with others, right? Because if you are in the spaces where you are, you see what you see, and you'll continue to see those things. But if you go outside of those spaces, you'll see other things.
Yeah, thank you so much. That literally is like percolating a lot of, potential like networking and just a lot of advocacy, I guess, or
Yep.
activism that I can do at
Mhm.
some point, or, thank you so, so much.
Yeah. Yeah. One of the things I uncovered in my own therapy was that compassion toward myself was a courageous act, right? It's an exercise that I do with clients, mental health clients, that you get a picture of yourself when you were a young person. And Positive Intelligence is the name of the book, Shazar Shamin. But when I went and studied with his framework, the Positive Intelligence framework, this activity or this exercise of having a picture of yourself when you were a young person, like a toddler or something like that, and then carrying that with you for a week or so, a couple of days. And when you go to self-criticizing or you go to talking to yourself, how are you internal, you look at that picture and say, would I talk to this child like that? Right. And for me, when I initially started doing that, it was so hard for me to do that with that picture of myself. And I'm fortunate and blessed enough to have a daughter that I can do it with. So I could look at my daughter, because she looks so much like I look like at that age. And I was able to offer, okay, I wouldn't harm her in such a way, or I wouldn't be as abrasive in such a way. It just elicits that sense of we are all those children who just grew up, right? And at some point along the way, a narrative got in that you don't deserve compassion, or you don't deserve empathy, or that it has to be earned, or what you've done, or all these kinds of things that can creep in. And so, as a person that is doing that work in clinical psychology, what you do for one, you are doing for many. Again, that's that apple seed idea, right? Because you don't, like Tupac Shakur said, I might not change the world, but I might spark the mind that does, right? And he was impactful on me, and I don't know if I'm gonna change the world, but I appreciate him. But of course, I'm a Christian, so my spiritual value, my spiritual value is bedrock, just like all our values, right? Living in alignment with those things. And so for me, my relationship with God through Jesus Christ, that has been the the genesis and the sustainer of this work, and the motivator. That's where the energy for me comes from, and that's done in community. That's not done individually, which is interesting because when you say American Christian, yeah, no. No, that's no. But yeah, the connection with the others is paramount to it. But yeah, start where you are, and you do that work. And I don't do clinical psychology work, but we're connected, right? It's like noodles, right? We're separated, but we're connected, right? We have our individualism, but we have our connection, and there's a sauce, right? um, but and that's good. Again, if you look at it from a war standpoint, like you have to have the sea, the air, the land, the space, I guess now, Space Force, missile defense system, right? But I can't fight you on all these different planes, right? The enemy, the foe. You have to have others who do that work. And then you can't have the person who has the machine guns with the microphone, or sitting down with the diplomat, right? You have to have diplomacy, right? The people who are great at fighting and doing what they do, they stay in their lane. But the people who are better at communicating, right? You know, the strategizers, the ideologers, right? They're there. Ideologers. I think I made that up, but the ideals. But then the executors, right? So
Yeah, that's literally all so powerful. I'm like tried to clock everything. But yeah, thank you for
yeah,
just kind of giving me that insight of all of your background, because like I said, it's percolating ideas that so I feel like, well, what can I do? But everything you said just changed my mind, and the energy you talk about is like something that I want to, project out as well.
for
So
sure.
yeah, thank you. Thank you.
Most definitely. Well, let's stay connected. I'd love to see how things develop and what becomes. And again, if there's opportunity for me to assist in any way, um, outside of just publishing and speaking these things, um, yeah, we're available. All right. Well, gratitude and appreciation to both of you. If there is nothing else, then I guess I will leave this space. All right. Take care.
Thank you
Thank
so
you.
much. Take
Bye
care.
bye.
Bye bye.